The Wellness Show, Episode 18.
Welcome to The Wellness Show, a podcast on health and wealth. I'm your host, Tyson Bannigan, the founder of the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. Join me as we get the latest insight, tips, and strategies from wellness providers, coaches, and successful, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and much, much more. Welcome to The Wellness Show, and I'm excited today to have a guest that's going to talk about shamanism, one of my favorite passionate subjects. So Christina Pratt with the Last Mask Center is going to talk about shaman from the everyday perspective. So Christina, take it away.
Good morning. Thank you.
You're welcome to the show.
So one of the things that I really like about shamanism, which I think is really grossly misunderstood, is that at the very foundation of shamanism is each individual person's connection to their own helping spirits. And that everybody has helping spirits, and that shamanic skills allow us the means by which to have a dependable relationship there, what I call a working relationship, meaning when I have a question, I can go get an answer. I don't have to wait for that prophetic dream or that sudden insight, but I can actually go ask like I would with a counselor. And what I really love about shamanism for the everyday person is that every single person can simply learn shamanic skills to forge that relation with their helping spirits, and they don't have to buy the rest of the Barco Lounger, right? They just get that one skill, they can have guidance from their helping spirits, and that help can inform them for the rest of their lives. They don't have to buy the whole deal. And this is what I really love about shamanism is every single person could simply have their own direct working relationship with spirit to guide them and help them in the enormous challenges of being a grown-up in a contemporary world. So this is, to me, I think the missed opportunity is that realization is there for everybody.
All right. I don't know if I get this. So are you saying that there's the inner shaman? We're talking about the inner shaman. Are we talking about the aspects that make up your body as, allies and those that assist us in our health and wealth? Are we talking about, what are we talking about when you say that? Are we talking about connecting to source or God or a higher force and connecting to that through our shamanistic rituals? What do you mean by all that?
Well, it's so interesting. As contemporary people, we do have, like 5,000 different ways of explaining the same thing.
Right.
So,
at least, the bare minimum.
We've made what's so simple and so obvious to children so complicated as grown-ups, right?
Children have simple. Yeah, kids know what we're talking about. Yeah.
Right. Children have imaginary friends.
Yeah.
Those friends don't ever go away. We just stop talking to them. So really what shamanic skills do is they give grown-ups a grown-up way to continue to communicate with that help that has been present for us all along. What I like to say to people is the capacity to connect with your spirit help does not make you a shaman. It makes you human. We all have help, whether we think of them as angels or inner selves, or a lot of people just like to think of them as elements of nature because they're comfortable with that.
Right.
They don't care. They don't care how we see them. A big, massive lion helping spirit is happy to be embodied in a tiny stuffed bunny if that's what it's going to take for the kid to pay attention. They don't care.
Yeah, I get it.
Late.
Yeah, I really get that. I mean, when the Mayan, with all their symbols and everything, my teacher says, can you imagine what it is to be an ally or an entity and to squeeze into this little picture of what a human thinks you ought to be to show up in a way in which they can accept you? I thought, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Or the fairy, with the little wand and the wings or whatever. And none of that is relevant to their world at all. They're just, spirits that don't need to be embodied in whatever thought form we happen to have.
But we need it. We like it. We like to talk to things that have faces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes us more comfortable.
Right.
And we're squeamish,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of my favorite thing about re-understanding shamanism, not as this crazy out there weird thing, but as something that's actually inhabiting our everyday life. We're just ignoring it. And if we just learned to pay attention just a little bit, we would have enormous resources that would assist us not only in our not just everyday decision making, as I said before, but also our physical health and well-being, to help us to stay connected to those forces in life that support health, and to not get distracted and run off with those things in life that do not support health.
So how would the average person get started in all this?
Well, the thing about learning to do a shamanic journey, which is the current language around that, if you're, Googling, you can Google, how do I learn to do a shamanic journey? And most people in North America can find a class within reach. It's that easy to get someone who is well-trained in that basic technique. And it is a technique, like learning a meditation form, learning yoga, learning like a sun salutation. It's a basic form. Learning to journey is a basic form for training the human being to enter into a particular altered state, which for all of the Western medicine's perspective that altered states are diagnosable, the truth of the matter is human beings are designed through their nervous system to enter into a huge range of altered states, most of which are extremely beneficial. But anyway, so the shamanic altered states are specific in that they're task oriented. They help us get things done. They help us maintain our health, they help us do things.
Right.
And for that reason, they're beneficial for us. And so basically, most people could start by learning to journey. If they like it, if it suits them, if they want to go beyond that, then they could begin to find teachers that could guide them in how you develop beyond that original stage.
So from your perspective or your background, what's your shamanistic training? What sort of background did you come from, or what sort of teachers did you have? Because I think that's people would be curious about that, because there's all sorts of different traditions, all sorts of shamanic approaches, depending on which indigenous culture you choose to work with, or where you came from, or who you met on the planet. So
Right. And so I think that there's kind of, I would say, three groups really of contemporary shamanic practitioners today. There would be those people who are actually continuing in their own bloodline tradition, because there are people around the globe who are in an unbroken line, basically, of shamanic work. And that is a wonderful, I would have loved that.
Me too.
Not my story.
Yeah, not my story either. I'm a white guy, right? In a big body.
Right. Exactly. And then there are people that, for whatever the ins and outs and ups and downs and craziness of their life has been, have brought them into contact with one of these traditions, and thus have felt called, found a home, for lack of a better word, in that tradition, and have studied within that. So they're practicing some traditional form. Mm-hmm. The trickiness in that group is where is the line between really embodying a traditional teaching that is not of your own culture and appropriation. And so one has to be very sensitive, but that doesn't mean someone can't do it well and isn't truly called into a tradition that is not of their bloodline. I mean, it's all really one big human family, which is not an excuse for appropriation, but it's important to recognize what a calling is, and what happens when someone's heart sings and their passion is aligned with something. They have to follow that. It doesn't really matter what the rules are at that point. Anybody else thinks
I get that. And then who knows what tradition we're from? Even if I'm big and white, there's a number of traditions I feel perfectly at home with. So it has to feel right for the individual. And in many ways, I think that we're guided to meet that teacher or that shamanic path. So so what are your ones?
Well, I'm part of the third group, and the third group, I think, in some ways has it harder in one sense, which is that our work is not being sanctioned by a tradition. That for me, my work is basically recognizing. It really didn't take form until I realized one day, with the help of my helping spirits, in all those beautiful traditions all over the world, which I have enormous respect for, there was a first shaman. Somebody didn't know what the hell they're doing,
That's
just
right.
like I don't know what the hell I'm doing, right?
And they had
Somebody
this
said,
experience.
please help me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the tradition developed from that. And so part of it is recognizing, for me, I am a contemporary woman. I am a white girl from Oregon in North America, right? I went to college. I don't pretend to draw on some Celtic lineage or something like that. This is who I am, and these are my people. And we're ill. We need shamans, right? And so the idea that I would have an authentic awakening, totally outside of the structure of a traditional shamanic tradition, but still functioning in the same way. It happens. Life is messy. The world needs people to help. So I'm in that third group, which is authentic, but non-traditional shamanism. My work is spirit-driven. And all shamanism is spirit-driven, but not within a tradition that is still living on the planet today. Is it the reawakening of something that lived and died? Maybe, I don't know.
I would
But it is
tend to think so. Yes, I would probably concur with you. You had mentioned it as a part of a healing health perspective is really what I felt that you were coming from. And so, so you want to talk about that? Because in my path, it's been not so much, well, it's not true. I'm pausing because you're making me think, what's the difference between health and wealth and rectifying and removing what no longer serves you in your energy field or in your biofield or whatever you want to call it, your chakras, and raising your consciousness. They're intimately connected. So whether you're on a sacred journey because you want to be one with all, or you're on some sort of path to enlightenment or whatever the goal is, the only way you can get there is by getting rid of your garbage, which is really the health and wellness of what is in the way. So you just made me think about it. You were coming from a health perspective, and I think, oh, well, what about consciousness raising? But the two are connected. But you're focusing primarily getting people healthy, right?
Well, yes, from this perspective. My perspective that comes to me through shamanism is that our health, the cornerstone of our health, is our connection with our purpose. And for me, that's where they come together. If I am understanding my unique genius and why I am here in this life, and everything, my consciousness, my health, my love, my children, my whatever I'm choosing to do with my life, is in the context of it being an expression of that soul's purpose, it will guide me in creating a life of well-being, which is physical health, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And I think if we think of our health in that holistic way, our physical health can either guide us on the path to that consciousness, because we have to go do what we need to do to bring our physical health back into alignment, or we'll make choices emotionally, psychologically, spiritually that keep us in well-being, keep us physically healthy. But I think that, for example, often when people's physical health crashes, their whole life becomes about that healing to the point where they've lost the purpose of their life.
Right.
So they're just healing versus I'm healing so that I can live my soul's purpose. And so if we so that's my sense of all of this, is how important knowing why we're here is in the midst of all the other choices that we're making in life. I
think you're absolutely right. Helping people understand their life purpose and why they showed up on planet Earth instead of some other place, some other planet, or, coming to the conclusion, like, who put me here and why, because it doesn't feel very comfortable, or any of those other feelings that some of us have when we're growing up. Discovering what your life purpose is about really is what this is about. If you don't feel comfortable in your body and in your skin, then most likely you're not living your life's purpose. So what is it? So it seems to me that you're helping people discover that as one of the first integrative steps on their journey to wellness and to conscious raising. Am I getting that? Is that what you're doing? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And so my work life really has three parts. It has a really basic, how can everyday people interact with shamanism? There's a radio show, there's basic journey classes, basic journey circle. It's really simple level. It doesn't take a lot of commitment. I have a healing practice where people come to me and we're actually addressing what are the problems that they are bringing forward and how can shamanic healing complement their healing process, right? And then I do trainings and teaching. So depending on how someone's coming into the work will depend on how quickly what is your soul's purpose and comes to the fore. But the important thing for people to understand is, I really think Joseph Campbell, for all of the excellence of his work, has been really diminished with this whole naive interpretation of his follow your bliss idea. You know, what is your soul's purpose and what is your passion does not mean what makes you happy in the moment and have a life doing that all the time. That is childish.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, I mean, Joseph really doesn't talk about the dark night of the soul, which every shamanistic tradition makes you go through. I mean, if you're a druid, you start digging your grave and you lie in your grave as part of your teaching. I mean, the dark side, the shadow needs to be dealt with. It's not all, bliss. I get that.
And
we may want to get to bliss, and we may have, flashes of bliss, thank goodness, or we wouldn't do the hard work. But, after the bliss or the aha or the flash of enlightenment, then comes the real work.
Exactly. And I think that that's the piece that contemporary people need to understand, is that we're really talking about, okay, my mom used to play this game with me. I think it was to get me out of the way, but basically she'd hide something in the house and then I'd run around trying to find it, and she'd just look up and she'd say hotter, hotter, colder, colder. But it trained me to understand how to find your soul's purpose. No one is going to tell you that it's hidden. That's the point. That's what happens when we arrive, is it gets hidden. We're supposed to discover it. And our passion, I mean a physical feeling we feel in our body, our passion, our true passion, lights up when we are close to it. And it cools off and goes out completely when we are far from it. And that fire is also at the core of our well-being. And that's how we know that we're in the neighborhood, or maybe at the door, or maybe about to step through. And frankly, it's kind of terrifying. But still, we all have a built-in way of knowing what our purpose really is, or at least what kinds of things it is in life, because we feel our passion rise when we're close to it.
So we have a built-in GPS system for knowing when we're getting close to our life purpose. And if it feels warm and fuzzy and light, then most likely we're on track. And if it doesn't feel heavy, there may be something we need to look at, but it's not going to take us further away. So that light and heavy, that getting closer or feeling away, you're really talking about emotional wherewithal that most of us have. Some call it an inner voice or a silent knowing or whatever. And we all have that. Certainly we had it as kids. Nobody needed to tell us about all this. So
one of the big issues with health then is if there's the remnants of trauma or unresolved issues from our past that keep us from that knowing. We all have that knowing, but often the unresolved issues of our past can distort our responses to things or our interpretation of it, color it in some way. And so there can be healing that needs to happen. As you said, we need to get out of our own way to be able to know and feel and see what's already present and already obvious if we knew how to look. Yeah.
So I think what you're saying is interesting, because it brought up the idea, well, the crisis and healing, or the showing up in one's life, is really coming from a shamanistic point of view. Maybe it's telling you that there's a part of a journey that you have refused to take, and that you need to take this journey, which has to do with your healing. There's a discovery, there's a path to travel, there's a knowingness to discover. And by denying that knowingness, or sitting in your pain and suffering, is denying the path that's being presented to you that will bring you through the crisis to your own healing. I've never thought of that before, so thank you. That's a really amazing insight that you provided, that it is a journey, right? And everything that shows
it is a journey.
Is to encourage this journey of life.
Yeah. And to refuse what life is showing you as the path is to refuse the messages from the source that's saying, go this way. Yeah, I know it doesn't make sense, but go this way. And you'll discover the you don't know yet that's keeping you from what you need to be doing and being. I mean, I had no idea. If someone had told me 15 years ago, 20 years ago, this is what my life would be, I would have laughed at them. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
we think we want someone to just tell us and hand us the job description, but it's being handed to us all the time, and we're brushing it off because that can't possibly be us. You know, we're funny creatures.
Yeah, we are. Showing up and being authentic is so simple on one level and so complex on another. We make it so difficult. We'd rather do anything than show up. But when we do
Right.
show up, warts and all, right, and get over ourselves,
Mhm.
it really is quite simple. So yeah, that's the journey. Is let go, show up, just keep it simple.
And I think that, people tend to get caught up in the drama and the Hollywood version of intrusions and possessions and all of this crazy energy going on. But nobody ever steps back and says, why are all these energies using us as food? Like, what is it? Why are we everybody else's chocolate bar? And I think that that's what people don't recognize is human beings, when they do show up and they are authentic, warts and all, and bring their heart to bear courageously on whatever it is in front of them, are unbelievable creatures.
Yeah,
And that's why everybody's trying to get a piece of us. We can
right,
be
absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm an entity and I'm come to the end of my evolution because I don't understand emotions, I'm going to go to planet Earth. I'm going to find out about people, find out what those emotions are, and have that discovery, in their aura. Why wouldn't I want to have that free ride? But as soon as you become authentic and stand in your truth, no matter what, then that ride ceases to exist for any entities. So in some ways, they're really our master teachers, as gross as that may
Absolutely.
sound to a lot of people. Hey, I just want to get rid of all this stuff that's in my head that's poking me and bothering me, and I don't want to do this journey. Just make it all go away. No, what's the lesson here? Why are they showing up? Like you said, why are we? I love what you said. Why are we a chocolate bar for every other dimensional being?
So I think that there is a lack of understanding and appreciation in contemporary life for the messy, crazy joy of actually being connected to our spirit as a real viable thing, and caring that we have a soul's purpose, and being horribly uncool and doing what we have passion for, even if it's not, the thing your friends think is great, or maybe your wife disagrees or whatever. It's being a human being can be an amazing ride. But
Yeah. And the
I
powers that
think
we have are just staggering, really, when we do show up. I mean, our ability to transform, change, create miracles in people's lives with no effort at all just becomes really, really amazing. It seems to me that part of the work that you're doing is also on the level of community, of bringing people together that are like-minded. Do you want to talk about that part of your work? Because we're talking about the individual journey, but you really are doing community journey too, or
I am.
communal
Yeah.
journey, right?
Yeah. Well, because I as a shamanic practitioner for my contemporary world,
Yeah.
I believe we have three main portals for disease and discomfort in our culture that are culturally held open, which is we do not tend death well at all. We do not care for the souls who are departing in a good way. We do not initiate our children into adulthood in any effective, reasonable way anymore, and therefore they arrive into the responsibilities of adult life with a child psyche and a child emotional life, still thinking everybody else owes them things.
Right.
And it's a problem. And we do not tend birth well. We don't attend to birth as the sacred gateway that it is. We've made it a medical process. And when you track the source of cultural illnesses to their source, it is often at one of these three gates. And so
There's
culture.
one more. There's one more that just came up in my mind, and sorry to interrupt you, but that's the warrior. Not that I like the warrior, but we don't welcome our warriors home. We don't help
Right.
them reintegrate. We don't help them let them know that they've been through the worst crisis that they could ever imagine, that no human being can ever understand, taking other people's lives, and that they need to heal. And here we sent them on our behalf, whatever that behalf is, to literally put themselves in harm's way. And they do all this, and then when they come home, we're not willing to process and help them be reintegrated into society. We just leave them on the outskirts of the village. I'm on a bit of a
Yeah.
rant. But that's another
Well,
one.
but it is, yeah, it is one of our great social illnesses right now, especially in America. And it's heart-wrenching. And
Yes.
so if we are going to actually become the people who can rise to these challenges, and we actually need to be skilled
Mm-hmm.
and then rise to the challenges. And so the core really of my teaching is to gather people who are interested in becoming skilled,
Mm-hmm.
not just impeccable and authentic so that they can live their own soul's purpose, but being skilled people who feel called to serve becoming the medicine for these larger social problems.
Right.
And not everybody's got the whatever it takes to do that, because they're big problems. But the problem that I see in the efforts that I've done at other times in my life with other groups of people is they sincerely want to address that ill in the culture, but they're not skilled. They are coming at the problem in the same energy as the problem. They're not gaining skills so they can come at the problem from a new perspective. And so my commitment to cultivating a community full of skilled people is so that we can then, as a community, offer to the world who doesn't, to the part of the culture who doesn't necessarily have shamanic skills, to help them tend their dead, to help them initiate their young, to help them at birth, to help them deal with the ways our cultural illnesses are impacting their life. And so that's why I have a commitment to the community piece that has always really been part of shamanism, is how do we as contemporary people function in community? Because honestly, I mean, let's face it, honestly, if you took 300 people from anywhere in North America and stuck them in a community on their own, they'd kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't survive. Most of them couldn't feed themselves, right?
Right?
So what does it really take to live well in close, intimate community? And the biggest issue is intimacy.
Yeah,
Most people,
that's
most contemporary people, yeah, they're very isolated. They're very not even intimate necessarily with the people that are in their lives. So there's a lot of coming into being fully human that only begins to happen when we take not only these training, whatever our training is, but we bring it into community. I mean, I can change all I want in my classes, but how am I going to be with people?
And when I think about it in the indigenous cultures of shamanism, there's not a shaman without a community. The community
Exactly.
needs the shaman, and the shaman can't do the work he's called to do, or she, unless there's a community.
Mm-hmm.
So the two are intimately connected. They're like night and day. So we're getting close to the end of the show, and it went really quickly. But how do people get hold of you, and what's the passion you want to leave with people?
Well, the way they can get a hold of me, they can always email easily at assistance@lastmaskcenter.org, and they can then get help at that. That's the way to get in and get help getting to whatever they want. Do they want shamanic healing? Do they want to learn how to journey? Do they want more information about the 4-year program? They can get in through that email and get assistance getting their questions answered. And they can see a lot of information at lastmaskcenter.org website. And then if people are uncomfortable with that, they can always call. We have a toll-free number people can call, which is, I can't remember what it is, 897.
We'll put it
800-927-2527, extension 02586. I haven't had to say that for a really long time. Wow. Anyway, that's because everybody emails these days anyway.
Right.
So, so the passion that I really like to leave people with is to understand that you have spirit help, and that you can easily learn how to communicate with it in a way that can help you be a better engineer, be a better parent, be a better human. And then if that suits you, there's always more about becoming a skilled person and bringing your true gifts to bear in the world. And it's not that hard. I mean, most people struggle around it because they don't have the right skills.
So
and mostly what I'm trying.
Let me ask you this. Sorry to interrupt, but what would be one tip that you could give people to connect with spirit? What's the one thing to get them started, right? Because it sounds like, wow, this is incredible. This is fantastic. I'm really excited about this, but I don't have a clue where to start.
Remember as a child your most intimate, close friend as a child, which could have been imaginary, could have been a pet, maybe it was a person, maybe it was a grandparent, just your most closest heartfelt friend as a child. Remember that place in your heart and know that that's the place from which you can connect right now with your spirit help.
Wow, I love that. So I have one more question. When's the book coming out?
Oh, as soon as possible. We're working on it. Because there is an encyclopedia, but writing an encyclopedia kind of turned me off from writing for a while. That was a big effort.
You wrote an encyclopedia?
Yeah, I wrote a 2-volume encyclopedia about shamanism many years ago. And so I'm just sort of coming back to the writing saddle again.
Wow, that's exciting. And so that is in the background. And now this could be, the introduction or, the layman's approach to all that body of information. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to have you on the show. I loved every moment of it. I want to have you back. What else can I say? It was incredible. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you. I would love to be back. I really appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
For quality online wellness products, courses, and services, visit our sponsors, thewellnessstore.ca and the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy located at thewellnessacademy.ca. To stay in touch, visit us at thewellnessshow.ca. And until next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise.